I'm Jack, 18M, and I live with my dad Rick, 46N, and until recently, my stepmom Margaret, 44F. My mom Lisa passed away when I was 12 from a sudden heart attack. It was devastating for both me and my dad. We were really close as a family, and losing her left a huge void in our lives. Mom and Dad met in college. They were both art majors, but Dad switched to engineering in his second year. Mom always joked that he was the perfect blend of creativity and practicality. They got married right after graduation and had me a few years later. Growing up, our house was always filled with art and music. Mom painted landscapes and portraits, while Dad tinkered with gadgets in his spare time. We'd spend weekends at local art fairs or hiking in nearby state parks, where Mom would sketch and Dad would teach me about different plants and animals. After Mom died, Dad and I kept a lot of her things to remember her by. We had photo albums chronicling our family vacations and milestones. There was her collection of vinyl records, everything from classic rock to obscure indie bands she discovered at college radio stations. We kept some of her favorite books, dog-eared and filled with her notes in the margins. And of course, we had her paintings. Large canvases of mountain vistas and seascapes hung on our walls, while smaller portraits and still lifes were carefully stored in her old studio space. We also kept a small box with some of her jewelry. Most of it wasn't particularly valuable, but each piece had a story. There was the turquoise necklace Dad bought her on their honeymoon in New Mexico, the bracelet she wore to every one of my school events for good luck, and the simple silver ring her grandmother had given her. The box also contained a few letters she'd written to us over the years. Birthday cards, little notes she'd slip into Dad's lunchbox or my backpack, and a letter she wrote to me on my first day of middle school. For the first couple of years after Mom's death, Dad wasn't interested in dating. He focused on his work as an engineer and on raising me. We managed okay, but I could tell he was lonely. He'd sometimes sit in Mom's studio late at night, just looking at her unfinished paintings or flipping through her sketchbooks. I'd hear him playing her favorite records when he thought I was asleep. When I was 15, Dad's co-workers finally convinced him to start going out more. He joined a local hiking group, saying it made him feel close to Mom. That's where he met Margaret. She was new to the area, having moved here for work as a real estate agent. Dad said she reminded him a little of Mom. She was outgoing and laughed easily, and she seemed to genuinely enjoy hearing stories about our family. They dated for about a year before getting married when I was 16. I was hesitant about the whole thing, but I wanted Dad to be happy, so I tried to be supportive. The wedding was small, just close family and friends in our backyard. Dad asked if I was okay with him wearing the watch Mom had given him for their 10th anniversary. I said yes, of course, but I noticed Margaret frowning slightly when she saw it. Things were okay for a while, but I started noticing that Margaret would get annoyed whenever Dad or I talked about Mom. She'd make little comments like, "Oh, are we going down memory lane again?" Or, "Don't you think it's time to move on?" I tried to ignore it, but it really bothered me. Once, when I was playing one of Mom's old records, Margaret asked if we could listen to something from this century for a change. The real problem started about 6 months ago. Margaret suggested we redecorate the house to give it a fresh start. Dad agreed, thinking it might be a good idea. But as we were going through things, Margaret kept pushing to get rid of more and more of Mom's stuff. She convinced Dad to put most of the photo albums in storage, saying they were taking up too much space. Then she wanted to sell Mom's record collection, claiming we never used the old turntable anyway. Dad was reluctant, but Margaret kept insisting it was for the best, and that we needed to make room for new memories. I got really upset when Margaret suggested we donate Mom's paintings. Those were really special to me, and I couldn't believe Dad was even considering it. We had a big argument about it, and Margaret accused me of being stuck in the past and not giving her a chance to be part of the family. Things came to a head last week. I came home from school early because I wasn't feeling well, and I found Margaret in the attic going through the last box of Mom's things. She had Mom's jewelry spread out on the floor and was sorting it into piles. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she was organizing things and that she thought we could sell some of the jewelry to put it to better use. I lost it. I started yelling at her, telling her she had no right to touch Mom's things. Margaret yelled back, saying she was trying to help us move on and that I was being selfish and immature. Dad came home in the middle of our argument. When he saw what was happening, he got really quiet. He told Margaret to leave Mom's things alone and that we'd discuss it later. Margaret stormed off, and Dad tried to calm me down. Later that night, I overheard them arguing. Margaret was saying that keeping all of Mom's stuff was unhealthy, and that Dad needed to let go of the past if he wanted their marriage to work. Dad defended me, saying I had a right to keep memories of my mom. The next day, while Dad was at work and I was at school, Margaret did something unforgivable. When I got home, I found that she had taken all of Mom's remaining things, the jewelry, letters, and even the paintings, and sold them at a local pawn shop. She said she did it for our own good and that we'd thank her later. I was devastated. Those were the last things we had of Mom, and Margaret had no right to get rid of them. The turquoise necklace from their honeymoon, gone. The lucky bracelet she wore to my events, gone. The paintings that captured moments of our life together, gone. Even the letter she wrote me for my first day of middle school, the one where she told me how proud she was of me and how excited she was to see the person I'd become, was gone. Dad was furious when he found out. He and Margaret had a huge fight, and he told her to leave. I've never seen him so angry. He kept asking her how she could do this, how she could erase these precious memories. Margaret tried to defend herself, saying she was just trying to help us move forward, but Dad wasn't having it. Now here's where I might be the asshole. I was so angry at Margaret that I decided to get revenge. I knew she ran a small online business selling handmade jewelry on the side. She was really proud of it and hoped to make it her full-time job someday. She'd often talk about how she was building her brand and how important Cuz Ricker reviews were for her success. I created a bunch of fake accounts and started leaving negative reviews on her online store. I claimed her jewelry was poor quality, that she didn't deliver orders, and that she was rude to Cuz Rickers. I wrote things like, necklace fell apart after one wear, and seller was extremely rude when I asked for a refund. I also reported her store for copyright infringement, claiming she was using stolen designs. Within a week, Margaret's online reputation was in tatters. Her sales dropped to almost zero, and the website she used threatened to shut down her store due to the complaints. She was devastated and couldn't understand what was happening. I overheard her crying to Dad, saying her dream was falling apart and she didn't know why. I know what I did was wrong, but I felt like she deserved it after destroying our memories of Mom. Those weren't just things she sold. They were pieces of our life with Mom, tangible reminders of her love for us. And Margaret took that away, like it meant nothing. Dad doesn't know it was me, and Margaret's moved out while they figure out what to do about their marriage. Part of me feels guilty for potentially ruining her livelihood, but another part feels like it's justice for what she did to us. So, Reddit, Aida for destroying my stepmom's business after she tried to erase my dad's past. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the responses. To answer some common questions. Yes, we tried to get Mom's things back from the pawn shop, but most of it was already sold. We managed to recover a few pieces of jewelry and one small painting, but that's it. No, my dad isn't planning to stay with Margaret. He's talking to a lawyer about divorce options. I know what I did to Margaret's business was wrong. I'm not proud of it, but I was just so angry and hurt. Update 1. It's been about a month since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, thank you all for your comments and support. Reading through everything really helped me process my emotions and see things from different perspectives. After my dad found out about what Margaret did, he immediately filed for divorce. It turns out that, in our state, selling a spouse's property without consent is considered a form of financial abuse. Dad's lawyer is using this to push for a favorable settlement. The lawyer explained that Margaret's actions weren't just morally wrong, but legally actionable. Dad's been spending a lot of time gathering evidence, receipts, photos, anything that can prove the value, both monetary and sentimental, of what was lost. Margaret tried to argue that she thought she had Dad's permission to declutter the house, but nobody's buying it. She even tried to claim that she put the money from selling Mom's things into a joint account, but bank records showed she'd actually transferred it to her personal account. When confronted with this evidence, Margaret broke down crying, saying she felt overwhelmed by living in a shrine to Mom and didn't know how else to cope. As for my actions against Margaret's business, I eventually confessed to my dad. I couldn't keep carrying that guilt, especially after seeing how supportive he's been. He was disappointed in me, but he understood why I did it. He made me promise to never do anything like that again, no matter how justified I felt. We had a long talk about healthy ways to deal with anger and grief, and how revenge often hurts the person seeking it as much as the target. Dad and I have been going through old photo albums and digital files, trying to recreate some of the memories we lost. We found a bunch of photos we'd forgotten about, including some great ones of Mom when she was younger. There's one of her in college, standing in front of an easel with paint-stained hands and the biggest smile on her face. Another shows her and Dad on their first date at a local art museum. It's been emotional, but also really healing for both of us. We also reached out to some of Mom's old friends and our extended family. They've been amazing, sharing stories and even some photos and small mementos they had of Mom. It's not the same as having her things back, but it's helping us feel connected to her memory. My aunt found an old scarf Mom had knitted for her, and she gave it to me. It's not much, but holding it makes me feel close. To Mom in a way I hadn't in a long time. One of Mom's college friends even found an old sketchbook of hers from their art classes. She mailed it to us, and it's been incredible to see Mom's early work and read her notes in the margins. There are sketches of Dad from when they first started dating, studies of landscapes from around campus, and even some early ideas for paintings she later completed. Dad and I spent a whole evening going through it, laughing and crying at the memories it brought back. As for Margaret, she moved out completely about 2 weeks ago. She tried to apologize, saying she realizes now how much she overstepped, but neither Dad nor I are ready to forgive her. She left a letter explaining that she felt constantly compared to Mom and thought removing her things would help her find her place in our family. While I can understand feeling insecure, it doesn't justify what she did. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, and Dad's lawyer thinks it should be finalized in a few months. It's been hard on Dad. I can tell he feels like he failed somehow, like he should have seen this coming. I've been trying to support him as much as I can, reminding him that Margaret's actions aren't his fault. Margaret's business is still struggling. I feel guilty about that, but I also can't bring myself to undo what I did. I know 2 wrongs don't make a right, but seeing her face consequences for her actions does give me some sense of justice. Still, the guilt gnaws at me sometimes, especially when I remember how proud she was of her work. Dad and I have been talking about maybe going to family counseling to work through everything that's happened. We're both dealing with a lot of anger and grief, and it might help to have a professional guide us through it. Dad's also considering joining a support group for widowers. He says he realizes now that he never fully processed his grief over losing Mom. In a weird way, this whole situation has brought Dad and me closer together. We're talking more openly about Mom, sharing memories, and supporting each other. It's been tough, but I feel like we're going to come out of this stronger as a family. We've started a new tradition of having a Mom night once a week, where we cook her favorite meal, listen to her music, and share stories about her. It's helping us keep her memory alive in a positive way. Update 2. It's been another month, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Margaret's parents reached out to my dad, wanting to meet and talk about everything that happened. Apparently, Margaret had told them a very different version of events, painting herself as the victim of an uncompromising stepson and a husband unwilling to move on. Dad agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I asked to come along, and after some hesitation, Dad agreed. When we arrived, Margaret's parents were already there, looking nervous and upset. I recognized them from the wedding, but we'd never really talked much. The conversation started awkwardly, with Margaret's mom asking why we were being so cruel to her daughter. But as Dad and I explained what really happened, how Margaret had systematically removed Mom's things and then sold the rest without permission, their expressions changed from anger to shock and then to shame. It turns out, Margaret had told them that we had agreed to sell Mom's things to move on, and that I was just being a difficult teenager who couldn't accept change. She never mentioned selling the items without our knowledge or consent. As we talked, more discrepancies in Margaret's story came to light. She had apparently told her parents that Dad was the one pushing to redecorate and get rid of Mom's things, and that she was just trying to support his wishes. Margaret's dad, who had been quiet most of the time, suddenly spoke up. He apologized profusely for their daughter's actions and said they had no idea things had gone this far. He shared that Margaret had always struggled with feeling like she was living in someone else's shadow, even as a child. Apparently, she had an older sister who passed away when Margaret was young, and she grew up feeling like she could never measure up to her parents' memories of her sister. While this backstory helped explain some of Margaret's behavior, it didn't excuse it. Margaret's mom started crying, saying she felt like she had failed as a parent. They both seemed genuinely horrified by what Margaret had done, and I could tell they were struggling to reconcile this with the daughter they thought they knew. To our surprise, Margaret's dad even offered to help us try to track down some of Mom's sold items. He said he had some connections in the local antique and art dealing community from his days as a hobby collector. Though we all knew it was probably too late for most of the items, the gesture meant a lot. The meeting ended with Margaret's parents promising to talk to her about her behavior. They seemed torn between wanting to support their daughter and recognizing the harm she had caused. Before we left, Margaret's mom hugged me, apologizing again, and telling me that my mom would be proud of how I'm handling everything. It was an awkward moment, but I could tell she meant well. A few days after the meeting, we got a surprising call. Margaret's parents had managed to track down one of Mom's paintings at a local art resale shop. It was one of her larger pieces, a stunning view of the lake where we used to vacation every summer. They bought it back and wanted to return it to us. When they came to drop it off, Margaret's mom broke down crying again, apologizing for everything that had happened. Seeing the painting again brought back a flood of emotions. I remembered the day Mom painted it. We had gone out on an early morning boat ride, and the mist was just lifting off the water. Mom had been so excited, saying the light was perfect. She spent the whole day working on that painting while Dad and I fished off the dock. Dad and I spent the evening reminiscing about that vacation, laughing at memories we'd almost forgotten, like the time I tried to learn to water ski and ended up doing a spectacular faceplant, or when Dad attempted to cook fresh fish over a campfire and nearly set the picnic table on fire. It felt good to remember these moments, to keep Mom's memory alive through our stories. As for Margaret, she's apparently not taking the divorce well. Her parents told us she's been struggling with the consequences of her actions, both personally and professionally. They mentioned that she started seeing a therapist to work through her issues. Part of me feels satisfied that she's facing repercussions, but another part feels a twinge of guilt for my role in damaging her business. Dad's been amazing through all of this. He started a small project to digitize all our remaining photos of Mom, and he's even talking about maybe taking up painting himself as a way to feel connected to her. He found an old set of Mom's paintbrushes in the garage that Margaret had missed, and he's been practicing with them. His first attempts are pretty terrible, but he seems to enjoy it, and it makes him smile in a way I haven't seen in a long time. We've also been reaching out to more of Mom's old friends and colleagues. One of her former students, now an art teacher herself, offered to help restore some of Mom's sketches that were damaged when Margaret tried to throw them out. It's been incredible to see Mom's work come back to life, and to hear stories about her from people who knew her in different ways than we did. Update 3. It's been 6 months since everything went down with Margaret, and life has finally started to settle into a new normal. The divorce was finalized last month, and Dad seems to be doing much better. He started going out with friends more, and even joined a local hiking group, something he and Mom used to love doing together. As for me, I recently started college, and it's been a big adjustment. Being away from home has given me a lot of time to reflect on everything that happened. I've realized that while Margaret's actions were inexcusable, my response wasn't right either. I've been doing a lot of thinking about healthier ways to deal with anger and loss. My roommate Alex has been really supportive. After I told him about everything that happened, he shared that he lost his dad when he was young. We've had some late-night talks about grief and family that have helped me process a lot of my feelings. It's nice to have someone who understands what it's like to lose a parent. I finally worked up the courage to undo some of the damage I did to Margaret's online business. I contacted the website where her store was hosted and admitted to making false reports. I also deleted the fake accounts I used to leave bad reviews. It doesn't fix everything, but it felt like the right thing to do. I haven't heard anything about whether her business has recovered, and I'm not sure I want to know. Dad and I still have our rough days, especially around Mom's birthday and the anniversary of her death. But we're learning to celebrate her memory in positive ways. We recently donated some money to the local art school in Mom's name, and they're going to hang one of her paintings in their gallery. It's the lake painting that Margaret's parents helped us recover. Seeing it displayed there, inspiring new artists, feels like a fitting tribute to Mom. Margaret's parents have kept in touch, which was unexpected but nice in a way. They've been supportive and respectful of our boundaries. Last month, they helped us organize a small memorial for Mom, inviting some of her old friends and colleagues. We displayed some of her artwork, played her favorite music, and shared stories about her life. It was emotional, but also healing. Hearing how Mom had impacted so many people's lives made me feel proud to be her son. Dad gave a speech at the memorial that really stuck with me. He talked about how love doesn't end when someone dies, it just changes form. He said that by keeping Mom's memory alive and living in a way that would make her proud, we're continuing to express our love for her. It was beautiful and helped me see our grief in a new light. Looking back, I can see how grief and fear of losing memories of Mom led to so much pain and poor decisions all around. It's been a hard lesson, but I'm trying to take away something positive from it all. I'm learning that keeping someone's memory alive doesn't mean holding on to every physical object, but rather cherishing the impact they had on our lives. Dad and I are talking about maybe starting a small scholarship in Mom's name at the local high school for aspiring artists. It feels like a way to keep her spirit alive while also doing something positive for others. We're still working out the details, but the idea of helping young artists pursue their dreams in Mom's name feels right. As I navigate college and this new chapter of my life, I'm carrying the lessons from this experience with me. I'm learning to be more open about my feelings, to value the memories I have, and to find constructive ways to honor those we've lost. It's not always easy, but I think Mom would be proud of how far we've come.